Welcome to the SIMS 1 overview video. My name is Ken Utley, President of SIMS, and the purpose of this video is to assist in the understanding of the SIMS 1, identifying its purpose, and demonstrating how it fits into the line of products provided to your central station. The SIMS 1 is a DOS-based program for central station dispatching and record keeping that was first introduced in the early 1980s and has remained on the marketplace as an entry-level monitoring product. While the SIMS 1 can receive more sophisticated panels using Contact ID and SIA protocols, it is primarily for panels using 4x2 with modifier protocols and earlier. Since the product's initial introduction in 1981, the SIMS 1 has evolved as a DOS-based product, changed its operation, and adapted. System requirements for this program are a stable hardware environment using any one of the popular operating systems including DOS, Windows 95, 98, Windows 2000, or Windows XP. Minimum memory requirements for DOS should be 16 megabytes. Windows 95, 32 megabytes. Windows 98, 128 megabytes of RAM, while 256 megabytes is recommended for Windows 2000 and XP. Other factors such as processor type and speed, as well as hard disk technology, will create a smoother and sometimes even faster operation. What are some of the advantages of SIMS 1? SIMS 1 is an entry-level program that can grow with you. When your central station needs the capability of more sophisticated monitoring products, you can expect a full trade-in value for any of the SIMS products. SIMS 1 has been UL listed for over a decade. SIMS 1 works on virtually all network environments including Novell, Windows Server, and Windows peer-to-peer networking. SIMS 1 is network ready. SIMS 1 can work under the full variety of operating systems. SIMS 1's account database is expandable, so you get the same features as a central station 10 times your size. SIMS 1 will work with all the popular receivers and supports over 150 protocols without extra charge. Even the SIMS 1 demo can be connected to any of these. Let's take a few moments and look at the SIMS 1 from the overview perspective. The SIMS 1 demo will hold up to 50 accounts, and several example accounts are presented inside of the database as examples for you to model your accounts after. Every demonstration should really start with the database. In here, we'll use the Enter key to move over to the field that we want, press the F1 key. We can put in an account number, in this case 001, and we'll bring up our example account, Tequila Willie's. There are several pages of information, the first being the vitals about the account. On this page you'll find the name of the account, the name continued, the address, city, state, phone number, and zip code. In the case of provinces requiring more than 2 characters, automatic adjustments are made at assembly time. There are also the phone number. You have comment fields, along with the capability of making them temporary comments by putting in month, day as the first 4 characters. There are up to 14 special codes to assist you with identifying what this particular account means in relation to your entire database. As we move through these special codes, we'll move on to the police department. Here you may put the police department's name, their phone number, and the zones you wish them to come up on the dispatching mask for. In this case, a code 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will bring up the police department, while the fire department will only appear for a code 1. As we move down through page 1 of the database, we'll continue and provide you with the current status of the account, the 3-character alarm company identifier, a delay on an account-by-account basis for ANC events, an auto test value for hours, whether you want this account to be read in non-expanded, which is 3 or 4 by 1, an I for intermediate, which allows you to enter either single or two-digit zone numbers, or Y, indicating that this is a 4 by 2 account with up to 256 possible zones. There is a field to identify whether this is an open-closing account, whether it's an exception report is desired, whether entry-exit delays on this account are required. And you can move down and nominate a 3-character mnemonic for each one of the zones to help the operator in understanding what the purpose of the zone is. After moving through all of the code ideas for the base account, which is 16 zones, there is a field for alarm and restore all rounds. We also have fields for entry-exit delay if it's turned on. These fields are in seconds, mostly associated with direct wire accounts. There are dual regular schedules allowing you to cross over midnight. There are temporary schedules in the lower right-hand corner, followed by subscriber options. You can nominate whether you want this account to have a follow-up procedure, the type of report language, whether you want restorals for this account to be exception events rather than auto-logged. You may not nominate whether your test value in the AutoS value in the upper right-hand corner is days instead of hours. You can nominate if you want openings to be exceptions, the same for closings, isolations, troubles, and early closing, giving you tremendous flexibility of the signals coming into the database. To go to page 2 of the database, we strike the F1. Here we see the mnemonics that were provided on page 1 on the left-hand side, along with some identifier code values, and it gives us the ability to put an explanation for each one of the zones, helping us identify that the fire alarm is the fire sensor in kitchen dining room area. To the right-hand side is a counter that keeps track of how many trips are done on how many zones, along with the number of dispatches on each zone. Striking the F1 will take us to the call list. Here we can have up to a 4-character passcode, along with the notify person's name, their phone number, and which codes you would like them brought up to the dispatching mask for. In this case, William Fenton will only be brought up for code 1 and code 2. While ignoring for all other codes, the first person on the call list after authorities will be Evan Horvath for all other zones. The final page of information in the SIMS 1 is a series of permanent comments. Also included are the last 8 events received in by this account and the temporary operator comments, along with some miscellaneous fields that can be modified and changed for other meanings. Let's just strike the F1 now, and we have saved whatever changes we've made in the account and exited back to the entry point for the account. I would like to take a moment and take us to account number 2. Account number 2 is a similar account that will show us a different twist on the values of what we've seen, but is certainly worth taking a quick look at. We can also look at count 8. Account 8 is an intermediate format and provides the zoning in a slightly different manner. Here we may nominate exactly whether it's a code 1 or a 2-digit code for each one of the zones coming in. This is very helpful when mixing 4x2 and 4x1 formats in the same panel. The last type of zoning information that we should review is the expanded format. Here we put a Y in the EXP format field, and when we go to the zone page, we're confronted with a grid 16 by 16. Along with the necessary translation table that we can find in another place under miscellaneous functions within the program. Here, in the upper left-hand corner, a code 11 will go and fetch translation number 28. The actual description of translation 28 is identified in the upper center of the screen. If I move my cursor down to the second one, code 21 or 21, we'll see that translation 002 calls for an alarm, burglary alarm audible, and so forth, and down the others. We can go over to a code 54, that's 54, and we can see there our translation is burglary, unknown location. Thank you for reviewing the account editing capabilities of the SIMS 1. Before we leave the concepts of data entry on the SIMS 1, it would be worth a moment to go and look at that translation table. Let's move our cursor to miscellaneous functions. Then F10 will take us to the last field, which is system configuration. The default configuration number is 123456. F10. Again, an F10 will take you to the bottom of the list, and we can come up to the zone translation menu. Here we can choose to print out a numerical translation listing, an alphabetical translation listing by mnemonic, or we can choose to just go in and take a look. First translation is 1. This is a 3-digit decimal number, although hexadecimal capability is available. I'm going to put in 001, strike the F1 key, and I'll see that my extended translation for 1 is a alarm, burglary alarm, silent. If I hit the F1, it'll go to the second one. I think you might remember this from looking at our account number 6 in the database. And so forth on through. It is important that you set up a very stable and an excellent translation for the extended formats very early in your installation. Take and make up a typical run. You have up to 256 values of how you want to deal with most of these type events. The standard one that's provided with a demo program is very broad and customer proven. You may want to stick with that and add others as you need them. Even though we moved very quickly into the SIMS 1 data entry, let's spend a minute on the traffic display and take and note a few things. Help capability is available in the SIMS 1 with the simple striking of Alt-H. That will bring you up to help selections. There are many current program options, and those can be accessed with a 0. That will show you which one of the up to 90 different options you currently have in your program. You may take your maintenance manual that is provided with the SIMS 1 and reference the meaning of each one of these options. Also here you'll find the assemble date and the time along with your serial number. An escape will take you out of there. You can find out about your special function keys by striking the F1. Notice that this is divided into different places within the program, what you can find and look forward to. If you're in a priority action event response, notice number 6 will take you into all of the hotkey explanations for what's available inside of there. When you get ready to exit from this screen, Alt-H will take you out of it again. Notice that you can move around within the program simply by hitting the Enter key. When you want to get to the section that you want information about, strike the F1 key and that'll take you Enter. So F1 is Enter, F2 is Back Out. Here under miscellaneous functions we have a whole other program grouping which may even in fact lead you to other menu selections. For talking's sake now, let's move to another part of our overview by going straight into the miscellaneous functions. Then I'm going to advance us to system configuration, put in our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, F1. In here, we're in the highest level of security inside of the SIMS 1 program, and you'll find the most important or the most dangerous options. Most of you that are getting involved with the SIMS 1 are going to want to start out by going straight over to Set Interface Options. Once you have your demo program up or you're running your live program, here's where you're going to want to set up and actually connect in your receivers. In this case, we'll strike F1, and we can see the demo here has the ability for connecting 4 receivers to 4 COM ports. Please take note that Windows XP only allows the connection of the first 2 COM ports, as it uses virtual porting on everything after COM2. In this case, if I wanted to know all of the different receiver options that are available to enter in for port selection, I simply would hit Escape, and that gives me a list of all the different protocols that are available. Strike F1, or strike the spacebar, and I'll come right back to the ports for selection. So, if I was over here and I wanted to choose the FBI CP220, you might see that as number 17 here. I go back there, I put in 17, I check my IRQ, my addressing of that particular COM port, and in the final analysis I can strike F1, and I have set myself up so that the serial port number 1 will now be connected to the FBI CP220. Also located within this system configuration are some other obvious choices. Operator list maintenance. Here's where I can put all of the operator logins as well as the level that that particular login will take throughout the program. The escalating levels of programs start out with operator, supervisor, master supervisor, and management. In this case, we can see KLU 300 is master supervisor level. Okay, we can go on through that and set up more if we want. But this is where you come into your operator list maintenance. There is code ID maintenance. Here's where we set up what mnemonics are going to be priority 1 code IDs and the priority 2s, priority 3s, 6s, and so forth. Number 3 entry is set operational modes. Here's where we turn on which tones we want for which priority levels. In the example case here, we're going to put out a tone for a priority 1 and a priority 2, but no tones for any other priorities. Also note that over on the right-hand side, the third one down, is a very important question. Is this the primary system? The SIMS 1 has certain housekeeping functions that it needs to perform. It needs to check for any late to opens, it needs to check for any timeouts on the auto test, as well as late to close reports and general housekeeping type things. If no system is set for the primary, then none of these functions will take place. So only the primary only one computer should be set up for the primary, and that's done right here on this switch here. All others should be set to no. There are several other options here that can be set up. We'll step through those in just a moment. Empty historical reports printout. Do you want an empty historical report to be shipped out or printed? Is this terminal a part of a network? Telephone touch tone dialing. Do you want to dial out when you hit the F2 key in a dispatch mask? Do you want to reduce the printer logger, or do you want to turn it on at all? Do you want to redirect reports to LPT2 or redirect them to a disk file? Do you want to disable the LPT1 printer logger? That's the printing logging that takes place for every action you do throughout the program. If you answer yes to reduce it, then as you move through masks, no strip lines will be created and only signals will be printed out. The standard setup, the way you have seen it received here, is the typical way. You also can turn on the primary flag like you see here. You can give supervisors the ability to change account numbers, which simply means to copy it to another account. You can turn on whether you want completed events to be seen on your traffic display. You can turn on read after write verification. With today's hard drives, this is done automatically, so this should normally be set to no. Do you want to give operators the ability for the operator acknowledge command? That means if you're on the traffic display, they can hit the A key and the F1 key and complete the event without any action being taken. This is normally turned off. Is your modem a true Haze product so we can use the AT command set? You also have LTO reports. Do you actually want this primary system to be creating LTO or late to open reports? If so, how often do you want to look in the database and to generate those? Do you want to do it from only a certain range, beginning at some number and ending at some number? This is very helpful when you're segregating these processes. No longer really necessary in today's environment. I'm going to hit the F1 key and write that file out. Here's where you can go and delete an account. You can delete a service account. You can delete history files from here. Here's where you set your company name with your address. Occasionally, it may be necessary for you to reindex or regenerate your account files. This procedure is done here, and take note that before any regeneration procedure is done, you should do a full backup of your account database. Do not do this procedure before you do a backup. I can regenerate the alarm monitoring files, the service files. I can balance out if I had a dual server. This was pre-SFT3 novels. I can input accounts from a certain data file format. I'm just going to regenerate the files just for a moment. And here you get the note, making sure you've done your backup. Here we have it's run down through the accounts. It's taken care. It found one unrecognizable account, and it cleared that particular slot out. You can see now the drive C has room for 10 more accounts. There is backup of alarm and service accounts, restore capability in here. Although with today's PKZip and WinZip, it is recommended that you seek an external source to perform your backups and restores. There are operator character strings, so that you can set up certain keys within dispatching to automatically print out certain strings of characters. You may set these strings of characters here. Here's where you can change your system ID from the default to something else. We have previously spoken about the zone translation menu. There are miscellaneous program options here, so you can set up the deadman or the operator alert checks. Whether you want to do the name and address search on disk or in memory. Different dispatch 8-level pickoffs, perforation skips on your printers, and so forth. You have disk network options here. Whether it's a dual server, not normally done, whether you want to enable active alarm sharing or allow other people to read the traffic file. This is for setup for a network, multiple terminals doing dispatching at the same time. History backups, alternate drives in case your computer has a dual drive. This is a technical thing, enable file tracking. Priority follow-up. Full event sharing, this means traffic and everything is shared across the network. If yours is the primary network server here, we can reduce the count access if we want. This you're probably better off consulting your manual on for a more updated explanation. And for accounting and drawing for the draw program, which allows us to hotkey in ANSI compatible maps. We can also, when we're using receivers to bring information in, we have the ability to go into the display interface signals and actually watch those signals as they come into the system. This is very important for working with SIMS support staff personnel, allowing them to see exactly what the raw data is. Even in a program as simple as the SIMS 1 is, the protocols received in from all the different receivers can be very confusing, and sometimes it is necessary for us to get an exact printout of what comes in from the receiver. Do not make the mistake of thinking that what you see on the printer for your receiver is what comes to the automation. This is most often not the same at all. There is a second configuration menu here with two more entries. When we were in account maintenance on page 4, I talked about altering some of the text program information there. Here's where those fields can be modified. Also, we can do global database modification in here, starting at certain numbers and making changes from a global standpoint in our database. We're going to move back to the traffic display, but I'm going to stop in miscellaneous functions for just a moment. While we're here, there is another series of capabilities within the SIMS 1 program. Here we can clear the trip false counters that we saw when we were in data entry. We can clear the last 8 events. Those appeared on page 4 of the database. We can set our files for paper backup, so when we do our paper backup printout, we can get all accounts, or it's selectable in ranges of accounts. We have the ability in here to reindex our history, sometimes through things that are outside of the control of the SIMS 1 program. Errors can be created on disk, and it may be necessary to reindex or to relink an historical file. This is where this is done. We can compute account totals to go and find how many accounts are within different groups or different sections or ranges of numbers. We can find out which accounts are currently open, which accounts currently have auto tests. The out of service select. Here's where we can take and put an account out of service for only a zone for 1 hour. We've now placed one zone for 1 hour out of service on Tequila Willie's. That's done at that position right there, the out of service select. I can get an open report to printer, auto test accounts to printer, a late to open, late to close report. This is where I can initiate one outside of the reoccurring parameter that we put into our system configuration. In other words, my report may be automatically generated on the hour, but I may choose to generate one manually right now. There is a place for system disk status, where I will get an actual readout of the current status of my alarm accounts, the service accounts, and how much space I have on logical drive C. Number conversions. This is just to help you in converting numbers from decimal to hex and hex to decimal. Optional menu selection. Zone exceptions. We can identify which zones are to be exceptions. Operator account comments. This is for placing those in there. Overflow passcard entry beyond the 10 that are kept in the account. I can add an unlimited number of passcards for any account through this entry here. And of course the system configuration that we're familiar with. Let's escape now and get back to the traffic display. We'll take just a little bit more time in this overview and look at the menu entry number 2, account passcard search. Here I can put in a passcard, strike an F1 key, and I will automatically get indexed into the account that it relates to. Now in this case, passcard 1 is for account number 1, but it doesn't really have to be that way. It could be a whole different number. I can put in the name of the account, TE, and I'll get a list of all accounts that have a TE anywhere in the name. whether it starts or whether it's somewhere in the middle of the name. I can continue on, put in the queue, and of course there's only one match there. I can put in an address, and again it's a sliding search on the address. Or I can just plain put in the account number. There is service work order capability within the SIMS 1. There are account sifting reports, ways to print out full files on the database of the account, printing out alphabetical and numerical listings of all the accounts. You have verification forms, passcard verification forms, cross-references of passcards with names and without names, as well as account passcard labels, print label forms to consoles and printers, print a LTO and LTC backup schedule in case of system outage. There's a lot of capabilities, and the last two are very important here, which is print your account verification forms that you will send to your customers. Under historical reports, we have two different menus of reports, and here we may choose to take a chronological report right to the screen. Here, I know that I've placed this account out of service, and I know that I've placed a subscriber test through there earlier. When there is no time that is shown on the far left-hand side with the reports, that means it was a manual alarm within the SIMS 1 program. There are chrono reports to console with sort, so I can organize the printouts or the way it's brought to the screen in specific manners. There are open closing reports, so only those signals that relate to opening and closings are printed out for your customers. There are follow-up report summaries, alarm reports, that would be the events that are not open closing test events, and so forth like that to print out for your dealers and when necessary. There is a second menu here which will tell you all the weeks of history you have in there. Which accounts have been inactive, which accounts are mnemonic reports to console, activity totals. There's lots of different menus here. I won't take a lot of your time in this overview, but you can see that the capabilities within the SIMS 1 are fairly expanded considering the simplicity of the program for you. Okay, I'd like to take this time to thank you for spending this time with me, and I hope this video has been helpful. This is a video on our SIMS 1 entry-level product. Thank you very much.